So I'll go straight into the conversation. Something that has come out from this, the questions and answers. Parents recognize the solutions, but they also recognize how expensive it can be. Ah, dollar importing, finding these things, and if they're already struggling now that they are alive, how much more when they are no longer here? So what are some practical tips that parents can start to implement in estate planning? What can they do? They might not have thousands of dollars or millions of naira now, but what can they do to planning for when they are not here with us physically? And that would be my general question to everyone. So I'll start with you, and then we'll go to you, and then we'll go to Mrs. Akonde on Zoom. She'll be our third panelist. We'll start here.
Good afternoon, all. I'm really happy to be here with you all. Well done to you and the rest of the team. Um, this topic is really is one I'm passionate about. I'm a warrior mom myself, and it's something that used to keep me awake at night. What happens when we are no more? And as much as we don't like to think about it, it is sure to happen unless but it is sure to happen, right? It's more likely that you will leave this earth than you will not. So the only thing we can do is to plan for when we are not here. Because what you don't want to happen is your treasures who you've poured so much into, you've suffered so much while you're here, trying to, recover or trying to make their lives comfortable or trying to give them the best you can within your own resources, all of a sudden they are left to suffer. Nobody is taking care of them. Nobody cares for them. Nobody is interested. You don't want that. And then God, for, God forbid they are roaming the streets and things like that. So you need to think about what happens when I'm gone. It doesn't mean you are going to go tomorrow. It doesn't mean you are going to go next month. It could mean that you may go in 70 years, in 80 years, but what happens when you are gone? So I would say as a first step, I mean, I guess we'll get more into it, but we should think about your wills. You should, even if you don't have anything, even if you have 10,000 naira in your bank account, even if that's all you have, you need to start thinking about it. You should start thinking about how to invest money, how to set up trusts, right? As basic trust system, nothing too complicated or fancy. Just something that will continue earning and will continue providing, even if it is small, for when you are no longer here.
So begin to think about it and make those investments now. Right that will find out about setting up a trust.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm a warrior mom myself, and this is a bit more than personal for me. Apart from me being a warrior mom, my dad died when I just turned, I think, 7. I was just about to turn 18, and he died without leaving anything. And so, as we all know, we're Africans, right? You can just imagine, we'll not talk about them badly, but you can imagine what happened. Nothing, absolutely nothing. And I asked myself, after I started to work, was what if something does happen to me? And what are the steps that I needed to take? What were the things that needed to be done? What would I have loved for my father to have done differently to take care of me and my siblings? And because of that, I'm very much interested in people saying, you know what, I have 5,000 naira. I think generally it's very simple these days. Mutual funds account can be opened with 5,000 naira. It's really not a big deal. So you open your 5,000 naira account, and your children would be thinking about it. Will have something to live for. Um, a lot of times when we have this topic, it sounds very morbid. People don't want to talk about it. I always talk about it with a smile. I was very particular about wearing colors today to make people say that, look, it is actually not a sad conversation. It's a realistic conversation. It is, I am telling you what, if I love you, I will tell you the truth, you know. And so this is one topic that I feel like if we never have, we will never be honest with ourselves. It would make us question ourselves as parents. It's almost like you saying you're not going to send your children to school. It's very similar to that. It's actually that's important. It is. And so, like my colleague said, my learned colleague did say, it's what are your first steps? I would say write your assets down. I have a biro, I have a pencil, I have an eraser, I have a phone. Yes, the screen is bad, but I have it. I rent an apartment. People always wait for when we buy properties, but I rent an apartment. I rent it at this address. I'm renting it. But guess what? For the period that you are renting it, it is your own. And by law, your children are entitled to live in that apartment for that period. Are we correct? Yeah. So it's actually very simple. It's actually not that deep as we try to make it complicated. It is the rich people that have complications. You see, we poor people, it's not that deep for us. And I speak for myself. It's actually not that deep. I have shoes. I have Brazilian jewelry. It doesn't necessarily have to be gold. I have this human hair that I bought that maybe my auntie even gave me. But guess what? It is yours. And you have a right to determine who you want to give it to. If you want your child, who is a special child, to own it, why can't you state it in a document? What's so hard? Why do you have to keep it in your mind? Why does it have to be your thoughts? Why can't you write a sheet of paper and write it down? Meet an expert like myself or her, or anybody that you know. Actually, please, not family and friends. Let me just state that now. And write this down. And then, from there, we start to build something that looks complex, but it's really not. So that would be my first thing.
Thank you very much. We'll move to Mrs. Akonde, who's joining us via Zoom. Yes.
Life skills is something you do not want to joke with, no matter how severe the disability is. Your responsibility is to make sure that that child can manage to the best of his ability on his own, and then the involvement of the schools. That cannot be taken for granted. You must start from the very beginning. I know many of you know Efe Irele. She's an actor. She's an actor, as they say. When she was growing up, her mother paired her with her brother. Efe, this is your brother. This young man is your brother. Ben depends on you. If Ben sneezes, the entire family, rescue. Don't want to actually environment where we have extended family. We want them to be involved in that child's life, because if anything happens to you, sometimes it may not even be the siblings, it may be the cousins. We've seen cases where the cousins have come in, to support that child. Involve your family. Don't let us lean on this Nigeria that says that, oh, this person is the one that is there, so you start shielding that child away from the community. Our children thrive when we open them into the community. They really live a functional life. Forget the fact that they are not speaking. Forget the fact that the disability is quite severe. Once you begin to open that to people, ask people like Bukola Ade, whose child has severe cerebral palsy, but has a very strong way in communicating her needs to her family. So we must move away from this I want my child to be in quote and unquote normal. What we want is the child to have a full and functional life skills and prepare situations that will make that child comfortable when you are gone. Start to talk about it when the child is 10, when you know that this child
We're losing you, ma.
is reached to support
Hopefully.
that individual.
Thank
Sure
you,
that
ma.
you have the right resources on ground to cater for that. In regards to resources, I leave Dami and sorry, my other sister to talk about that because they are more in the field, in the financial field. But from the social aspect, we need to open the road up for our children to be able to thrive. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma. That preparation for life. Yes. So my last set of questions, and then we'll open it up for questions. Yes, you're free to add something, and I also wanted you to maybe play around with some numbers because sometimes people think, oh, writing a will, setting up a trust, you need lots of money, or maybe it's as simple as mutual funds. Like you gave the example of a 5,000 naira, you're putting it aside. So really practical, and then please add to what was being said.
Thank you. Just to add to what Mrs. Akonde said, when my son was younger, he was very disruptive. So at a point, it was just easier to leave him at home when we were going out, just so that we don't have to deal with the drama. But my sister said something to me one day. She said, "This young boy, he was like 3 or 4, that you keep leaving at home, you don't want to expose him to us. We won't understand him. If something happens to you, where would we start from? Is it not better that we all know, we all see this thing that you are saying that he does? Let us see it. Let us understand it. If something happens to you, at least we will know where to start. We will know how to continue what you have been doing." And just fit into something that Mrs. Akondi said, and it struck me then that really, 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 nothing, even the next second is not guaranteed. Sorry about the black, but even the next second is not guaranteed. You don't know. Nobody knows when anything would happen. So you have to prepare. Not being, not, I mean, yes, we all say God forbid it will not happen, but you don't know. You don't know what God has in store for you. You don't know. So you just need to plan accordingly. Expose your children. Let them have a social life. Let them understand. Let your people, the people, your trusted circle now, it may be your family, it may be your friends, it may be your cousins, it may be anybody that you trust completely. Let them understand your children or your child. Let them know where you are coming from so that if anything happens, at least they understand, oh, this person, or this is what, when he's doing like this is what he wants, or when he's doing like that, this is what, I mean, we all pray to live long. We all pray that our children will also live long and all that. But just in case, you need to have all those things in place. In terms of practical numbers, um, making a will is really not, just look, it's not too expensive. My colleague said whatever it is you have. I would even say one of the most important things in a will at this stage, especially when you have children that are minors, is indicating who would take your child if something happens to you and your spouse, because it is possible, and we have seen in the last 1 year at least, something can happen to you and your spouse at the same time. We don't want that. We don't pray for it. But if that happens, what's going to happen to my children? Would that my uncle, who I don't understand and he doesn't understand me, would he now come and take my children and be mean to them? You need to set out in your will, this is what I want to happen to my child or my children, whether they are neurotypical or they are not. This is what I want. This is who I want to take care of my children. And of course, please, you need to tell the person so that the person is not blindsided.
I had to grow up. I didn't ask anybody that I have these special gifts about me that can help me train an autistic child. Hell no. Sorry for my French. I didn't. As I'm like, because I look like a baby girl, I didn't need stress. I like soft life. So the same way Oluwadam Lola, am managing it. You, my mother, you, my sister, you, my friend, that you call yourself my friend and my sister. When I drop my son with you, you are just with your children. if you have any. And if you don't, there goes your adopted son. And all of you would manage. It took a lot from me. And Auntie Dotun, who knows, I don't call her, I know her, I can't even imagine how many years. She took it, but I took the bull by the horn. And I said, one of us will give each other's peace. Because I won't be there forever. My dad hasn't been here for over 20 years. I'm surviving. God bless my mom. She'll be here forever, please. But you get my point. Aside from that, I have a document. I have my trust that has everything concerning my son, even to the milk that he drinks, to the type of rice that he eats. I'm constantly updating. To the kind of crayons that he likes, to the fact that he doesn't like buttoned shirts. He can't stand them, only round necks. So do not buy my child any button shirt. He's not going to wear it. So, and if you buy the first time, I'll return it back to you and say, sorry. We don't used to wear that type. Sorry, I did not tell you. We keep it for his younger brother. But I try as much as possible to drag everybody. You see, what we need to understand is that the people that love your children will love your children, whether you like it or not. And so we need to stop overthinking this thing. But if you don't give them a chance in the society, how would you know? If you are too afraid and you're hiding the child behind the door, me, the first thing you hear from me, maybe you miss me within 2 minutes, I have an autistic son. It seems like pride. I used to wear it on my shirt. I don't waste time. I'm very quick. So we can all quickly adjust ourselves. There's no shame in it. I have a Down syndrome cousin. Beautiful girl. Love her so much. So there was the problem there. If I may ask, they will beat the child. Then you remove the child. You don't take the child there again. You've learned your lesson. Yeah? But we need to understand that the society can only be brought in as much as we want them to be brought in, like she said, like Auntie Dotton has said. And we need to train these children in such a way that they can live themselves and understand that they can do these things themselves. But with the help legally and socially, you can't leave one out of the other. That would be my take.
Thank you very much. We'll just get final contributions from Mrs. Akonde if she's still with us. If not, we'll be able to take questions. I know this is a very hard topic, but so many important things have been said, and I love some of the things you have said about bringing everybody into the party and being very specific. You said, oh, who is going to take care of my child? You've told the person, should I die? This person. And you've even gone as far as, I can just imagine a Google document that gets updated, the rice, the milk, the clothes. I think these are practical tips that we can all begin to have, because whether or not we like it, we might not have children who have special needs, but you said you have a cousin. We all know somebody here. And if we're inclusive, not just by mouth, but in reality, and we're mainstreaming this kind of conversations, it will be like, so HIV, now it's like, what's the big deal? So we can get there. More people, like I love it, that energy of letting everybody know, okay, and we'll all get on with it. So I'm not sure we've been able to
I
get
have a story that she wanted me to share,
Okay.
if you don't mind. It was she shared it with me last night. Like I said, I'm her protege. It was about a girl that she said who was on the spectrum. She was living with her mom, shielded by her mom for such a long time. Unfortunately, her mom died. And okay, so before her mom died, her mom had married a man for her. Please pay, I need us to pay attention to this story very well. Her mom had married a man from her, and the man had come to live in the house with her and her mom, right? And then her mom died. And when her mom died, husband did not know what to do because mommy apparently used to manage everything for this girl. So mommy has gotten someone to cook for her, to clean for her. She girl literally had absolutely no life skill. And it became, how do we manage this girl? Her siblings had to fly from the US or the UK, I don't remember where, back to Nigeria to try and manage the whole situation. Now, the house that mommy was living in with her was a rented apartment, meaning that at one point the rent would expire. And so there was a lot of confusion here and there. And so Auntie Dotton had to step in. Please, can everybody give a round of applause to Patrick's speech? For the things that they do online and offline is really amazing. And so Auntie Dotton had to step in to, put her life, to take control of this girl's life. They taught this girl some life skill. which is girl side, and found a job for this girl. She started going to work. I think they started off with 3 times a week till she was able to go every week. I remember because she's on the spectrum, you really can't do much. Good news is that the girl has, found a balance. You know, she's working. They're able to pay for their rent. The man is working also. The mom's house that she owned was able to pay rent for the house, so there's not a lot of pressure on the family. But please, can anybody see the loopholes in this whole story? Mommy did not have a will. Let's even start with that. Daughter did not have a life skill. Another problem. Thank God there's Patrick's speech that was able to come in. What if there are a lot of stories that there's no Patrick speech in their story, right? It's the one that Auntie Dotson can able to pick up that she will jump on. And how many is she going to do, really? Which is why we must start with ourselves and train our own children and those around us on how to manage. Um, People always say that I'm a bit funny when you tell me your child is non-verbal. I'm very emotionless about it. I'm like, then teach them sign language. What's your challenge? The child, Abby, let's not kill everything until there is no life. Yeah, is when there is no hope at all. But provided there is life and the child can do something, then you move on. Then you find something. You wipe your see. I'm a big advocate for crying. Please cry hard. When you cry hard, when you enter your room and you cry from your belly, cry hard. When you are done crying, clean your tears and say, what's next? Not every child is going to be a mathematician. Not every child is going to be the next Einstein. Not every child is going to know one thing, two thing, three thing. Some children, you see that artwork when they draw it for you, or some children when they make some beds for you, and you see the alignment, you don't be like, stop it. You don't even need anything. I'm not joking. Everybody's child that the person that made this dress now, I don't know whether she went to school. Does that matter? You just like the dress, Abby. There you go. So let us focus on what the child can actually do. Teach them. As I'm like this, I've told my son, I can't wait for you to start earning money because you see that jets, I must enter jets. Forget that one. I don't know how he's going to earn the money. I don't really care. If like let him not know maths, that's his business. Whatever he knows, I will focus on it. English, it seems like he likes English. Like, sorry. We're going to go into professor in English. I don't really care. But that's his business. I don't bother. My own is that you will do something in your life because I must live my life. It's personal to me. 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 Because I can't have suffered for so many years and now we have seen I be crying over a child. No. Sorry, I can go between Yoruba and Igbo sometimes. But yeah, that's basically it.
Thank you very much for sharing that story. Like, we're keeping it real here. I would like you to also share other tips that parents can start to implement. Even I know that there are adults now to also know, okay, when I'm not here, how can you even have such conversations? Because some parents or caregivers are working with adult children, and it feeds into that whole preparing for life, but also letting them know, like, these are the things that are in place. How can we begin to do that? And then once she responds, we'll take questions. So let me just see by show of hands if we have any questions. So we can give numbers and then, okay, is that your hand going up? One, two, okay. Those two hands, right? We have two questions. Okay. So I'd like you to answer and then we'll take the two questions. Thank you.
Okay. So I would say there are different aspects, right, to planning for the future. There's the social aspect, which we've said a lot about. There's the financial aspect. You may not have much, but if you put, Dami mentioned mutual funds taking as little as 5,000. But 5,000, perhaps maybe that's if maybe that's money you would have blown away on something during the month. If you actually you can find 5,000 and you say, okay, every month I will set out 5,000. I'll put it in a reputable financial advisory firm, a mutual fund, or another kind of investment. Believe me, and you're putting it there. You're putting it there every month. It just goes automatically. You're not even it's automatic debit from your account every single month. It will create a very tidy sum for you, right? Which you may decide in 5 years, in 10 years, you want to use. Or you may decide, you know what, let me just leave it, let it just continue to grow. It's I forgot, it's not, let's just continue to grow, right? And then you put it down. This is how, this money, if anything happens to me, this is what it should be used for. You can, if you are blessed and you are buying properties, you can decide, let me buy a property in the name of a company. Let me put myself, my children, my anybody you like, maybe a close friend or something, as shareholders in this entity. So if anything happens to you, that property is still there, is in the name of that company, and your child or whoever, is able to enjoy the benefits of that property. So if you just put it in boxes, it's not it's a lot, but it's not a lot. And it's something that each and every one of us can manage to do if we absolutely set our minds to it. What you need to remember is that irrespective, I'm going to be gone one day. My children, no matter what, should be catered for. Now, for your neurotypical children, you may not, in quotes, care that much. You may say, I've had someone say to me, ah, I don't, it's not, I mean, I suffer to make my wealth. They should do what they have to do. But if you have a child that is neurodiverse, you know that it may not be. And if I flow from Dami, yes, you may be determined that the child would make it and the child would be independent. But you really can't tell what is going to happen. And as much as you are able to, you should try to provide something for that child. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We got, yes, please put your hands together. You're getting free legal advice courtesy of the Senate 2025 Conference and Trade Fair and our amazing panelists. As I said, legal impresarios. So, want to know the difference between trusts and wills? Because a lot of times people say, oh, just leave a will. And then the will, tomorrow they are fighting. Like we've seen that play out in the media. Maybe, like you said, is rich people's wahala. But we pray that we'll all be rich one day and enter private jets. So let's prepare for that rich life. Let's take the two questions and then we'll address wills and trusts.
All right. My question is centered on the social aspect of it, leaving the child with family members and friends. We've had cases where some of these children are being molested. Just last week, one of the therapists was sharing with me that there's a particular child she's taking 4 years. She's an autistic child. That she came back from school and she started bleeding from the vagina. So, and I was like, something must have happened to that child. But she was telling me no, that the doctor said probably there is a reaction that took place. So, leaving these children with people, don't you think there is a clock there? Because the society we live in is very wicked. So I really wanted to throw more light to that.
Okay, thank you. Can we take the second question and then we'll answer everything at once?
Okay, so for the second question, I want to appreciate the speakers that have spoken about trust and what we can do. I am a special needs mom. Fortunately, I have been doing what I think Miss Dami suggested. I every month for all my children now. I put it's automatic. I put certain I open account for all of them, and certain amount goes into the account every month. But now, my daughter, I'm wondering, how do I begin to? Because I know that my plan, what I'm thinking is that maybe by the time they are 18, 20, I can be able to hand over because it's a joint. But I'm in control of the account, right? Now, I'm now wondering for my daughter that is with Down syndrome, because I know that most likely, even at age 20, she might not be able to actually be left alone to manage the account. How do I now begin to, how is there any? I've always wondered whether the banks can allow her at that state to be able to run the account, and if not, how do I begin to put? Who do I? Like you, ma'am, I think Miss Dami. I try to tell my daughter, yes. I tell my other kids that, see, peace is your responsibility. Anywhere you go, if anything happened to her, I don't care. What happened? Why, you should be there. You should be concerned. You should be. I don't want to know whatever that happened. When I come back, oh, it's peace. I say, where were you? I try to put them in charge. I try to make them to understand that they are likely to be responsible to her, for life. Even if I teach her life skill anyway. So how do I begin to do that? Because I've been like wrapping it all around my head. Okay,
Thank
she's
you.
having something now. We are preparing, but I know there are a lot of bad people all over the places.
Yes.
How do I prevent so that they don't take advantage of her to assess what belongs to her?
Thank you for those very important questions. So we'll start with you.
So as it was earlier said, I'm a trustee by not by choice. I don't even know how I'm became a trustee, but let's just leave that one aside. So I think my question will work for my answer will work for both of you. Reason why is I'm saying why the reason why is I remember in my former life I had a client and sorry that I was these guys this time you have to increase by like 20 minutes. As I'll say, in my former life I had a client who had passed on years ago and he had a little daughter, not on the spectrum, but she was she was the youngest of all the children, and she was still in secondary school. All the other older children had gone off to married and whatever. He had created a trust in his will. And I know that we'll discuss the differences between trust and wills, but what he did was create a testamentary trust. Testamentary trust is a trust that takes effect after death, right? We'll talk about the details, but let's just understand that there was a trust created. And because of that, it meant that my company now became responsible for this child, meaning that my company was now the father of this child, meaning that if anything happened to this child, as I who was handling the family trust, it became my responsibility. Meaning that if there was a meeting in school, I showed up. Meaning that if there was something wrong with her medical bills, I showed up. And you can imagine when I'm passionate about something, imagine kind of showing up I used to do. So randomly, I would just pick up my bag and go to school and see where that child was. If anything happened, I would go. Not because I'm also passionate, but it was also a duty of care that I owe the client. In a trust document, where you will see is that a trustee owes a fiduciary duty. Fiduciary duty is, how do I break it down? If the trustee owes the trust or to care, let me put it, legally has the right to care for this person, has the right legally should ensure that nothing happens to this individual or to this property. So when you see fiduciary, what's that's basically in simple terms, that's what it means. And so it meant that I had to, as a trustee, legally be responsible for this girl that I did not know of. It didn't matter whether she was from my family or not. It meant that nothing must happen to her, whether school, whether at home, whether what socially, whatever it is. What happened that when I sat at a meeting, I was seen as her father, right? And so in situations like that, where you have a child who is being molested, might be molested in a family, the best is to just create a trust for this child. And I struggle with when we give individuals because you see, with individuals, we're very passionate, but with a company, what would happen is there's a check and balance, not to have any issues. There's a check and balance. Somebody is going to check through audits. There's going to be audit. There's going to be internal control to say what is going on here, what's happening here. Why has this child not been checked in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks? The trust document expects that you're supposed to give reports to the family every quarter, right? So the audit will come and say, we didn't see the reports that was submitted to the family every quarter on this particular trust. What happened? Do you understand? You go and give back feedback to your meetings. And so for me, if you ask me, I don't have a problem with wills. I have a will and I have a trust. But the thing is that for when it comes to caring for the children in detail, on who will be responsible, like the person that asked the question at the back, I would say create a trust. First of all, the child will be too young to even. If she's 20 years old and she's not really able to manage herself, mentally, then a trustee will be able to make decisions for her. And that trustee will not be able to make decisions by themselves because they will have to pass through what? Or the right control. And so for me, it'll be look for a company, a trust company. I think we have Meristem trustees. I can mention Meristem trustees. We have Meristem trustees here. You ever give them a round of applause for coming? Meristem trustees, someone can advise you on how best to do this. I don't work in Meristem, but yeah, that's just it. That's what I would suggest to you. I don't know if you have.
Thank you very much. We only have
Um,
about 4 more minutes.
yes, can I just add? It is not. It's probably not. It might not be expensive, so price may not be a barrier. Sometimes when you have these conversations with these trust houses, you see that it's something that you are able to manage. And if you cannot manage it, yes, I understand that using a company is better because you have those checks and balances. But if you cannot manage it, still get an individual that you trust and you name as the trustee for this child. You get, has to be somebody that you trust. It doesn't, if you don't trust your mom with your child, and some people don't, and it's okay, it doesn't have to be your mom. It can be a friend that you absolutely, absolutely trust, that that friend, no matter what, even if the friend doesn't have money to feed herself, the friend will not go and dip into my child's money to feed herself. The friend is such that she will use that money only for my child. The important thing is, it's somebody. If you can't do a company, you should do an individual, but you should set it up. And for the difference between a will and a trust, I mean, in a will, you just typically give assets. So this is my property. I give it to Tolu, I give it to Moody, I give it to you, when I'm gone. Now a trust can be testamentary, as she mentioned, that is given, is created in the will, or it can be a living trust. It's not, it's, you create it while you are still alive. Now in this instance, you are saying, in the event of my death, this money that I have here, this person, I'm appointing I'm giving this money to my daughter, and I'm appointing this person as trustee to manage this money for my daughter. Do you get? So that is a trust you have created in a will. You can also create the trust outside a will and say, or you go to a trust house and you create it. It's a trust deed, it's a document. You probably need to get a lawyer who knows what their onions to draft one for you, and you're saying, this is how this property or this asset, please manage it. When you manage it, the funds, when you make money from it, use the money to do this. Or I have this asset that automatically yields me. So in the example we gave of a property, I have this property that every year I get rent, right? When I get that rent, please use that rent, maintain the property. What is left after maintaining the property? Please pay my children's school fees. What is left after paying my children's school fees? Please buy them clothes. What's left after buying them clothes? Please do this, or please do that, or please use it for the care of my children, or give my child an allowance of 10,000 up until this age, or up until the time where it is certified that my child has the acumen enough to be able to manage the funds by him or herself. So it is very, very important. Even if you do create a will, if you have a neurodiverse child, I will suggest, and I mean, there's a whole spectrum. So every child is different. Every child has different abilities. There are some Einsteins in our midst who, they won't have a problem, but there are some people that would need care for a long time, even if you do everything you possibly can on this earth to make them independent. There's some people that will still need care. In which case, please try to create a trust for those people so that they have something that they're able to live on.
So let's just to
Thank
add,
you.
I do in my past life I do have a client who created a trust for her son. He's 55 now. That trust has been running for 55 years. It's so weird. And he's on the spectrum. He can't. Sometimes he goes on. Sometimes he has his good and bad days. And the trust will manages everything concerning him. They pay his bills. They pay his everything that he needs to do and all of that. He works sometimes when he's able to keep a job. He'll work and all of that. But the trust is responsible for him even now. In fact, the day I found out that he was 50, and then I was working with the trust, he was 50 something years old. She'd be about 55 now. I was so stunned. And so that means that the mother or his parents had thought about it far off, that this guy will need a trust. So you can imagine how much they've kept him standing and alive. It's such an amazing thing to see. So it's not a what's the word? I'm dying now situation. I'm living a legacy. Yeah, I'm leaving a legacy for my child, and unfortunately this child might need more of me than I would normally would have given every other child. And so what do I need to do? Create a situation, create an environment that's conducive for this particular child. And it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. I think we have a question at the back. If you can just take one more question. I do apologize. I don't this question, this thing should have been 2 hours. Sorry. Moody.
Good afternoon, all. Thank you so much to the panel. You've really given us a lot of insight into a particularly challenging topic. So I think part of the question that's not been dealt with is, consider this. A child is 16. You've set up an account. Funds are flowing to the account. You've been dealing with the child's passports, travel documents. You've been in control of all of that. The child turns 18. He's now an adult. What document, or is there a document that you require as a parent to continue to manage the affairs of that child once that child turns 18? What is the legal instrument that gives you, the parent, as it were, the ability to continue to take steps on behalf of that child after he or she turns 18? Thank you.
Thank you for that question.
Okay, thank you. So here in Nigeria, typically your child, right, is a child until 18, or and then at that 18, that is when they can hold assets, and that is in generally when they're an adult. So normally they should have their assets. But when your child is not able to function, doesn't have the, and I'm being careful so that I don't want to sound derogatory, but doesn't have the mental ability to function as an adult, then you as the parent, you continue in that, in quote, guardianship position until the child is able to function in that way. So you don't necessarily, as the parent, you don't necessarily need a document here, based on our own laws. You don't necessarily need a document to continue to function as your child's custodian or guardian. No, you don't. As a parent here. Now, if it is that your child, if it's that your child has the ability to function in that way, right? And you, as a parent, you still want to impose your own will, and maybe, maybe the child has assets or something, and you still want to take the child's assets, obviously you can't, and the child can seek redress against you because the child has the mental capacity to continue to live and to manage his or her own assets without you.
So for me is I think I kind of understand where the challenge is coming from, and I would say, like she did say, in Nigeria there's nothing, but can you do something just to protect yourself? I would say yes. I would say maybe get a mental evaluation, a document. So what do I mean? When I was going to go abroad with my son after he turned 4, I went to the hospital and I got a medical certification to say that he was autistic. Yes, I did have an autistic. I had an autism report from England and America, but I wanted something to say that I could fly with food and certain things for him because he needed special diet. So I went to the hospital and I got a document signed by a doctor, certified by a proper doctor, to say, look, I needed to fly with him with certain needs were required. So if I know that my son at the age of 18 might not be able to manage himself and I would like to be in charge of it, the good thing is I can go to a hospital. I'm not sure anybody's going to contest that and say I can't go to a psychiatric. We have fantastic psychiatric doctors in Nigeria. Let us not even play. We do have. So you can get something. However, when it comes to a trust, remember, the trust is being made from your assets. It's yours, not the child's property. So the child actually doesn't have any right to these assets. Let's be very clear. We're just trying to be kind, for lack of a better word, right? We're trying to give you something. It's not your right. And so I'm putting assets in a trust, whether you're autistic or not, is that I'm giving you something. It's passing on inheritance. It's not your father's money. No, it's not your rightful money. It's my money. Thinking about it, I'm just being nice. And so, really, you're not helping the child manage their affairs, in quotes. It's your affairs that you are helping You are giving this child to manage. You want to help this child use, do you understand, use your own assets. So really, there's really not a problem with that. And anytime you create a trust, the trust will say, this is who is in charge of these assets. The child will only be a beneficiary to the trust, not necessarily the owner. Yes, the child, when I say owner, the trust, so when you create a trust, the trust becomes a legal entity, can be sued also. And so the entity is what owns it. Even though, yes, the child is the beneficiary of it and, in quotes, legally owning it, but they're not the ones legally managing it. I hope I'm not confused everybody. Okay. So, okay. Sam won't ask another question.
Can I, sorry, before he asks, can I add that when you create a trust, you can even create a trust for an adult.
Yes.
Just to speak to that. So you can create it, that that you're creating a trust doesn't mean it's because it's a child. You can create a trust. But well, she gave an example of someone that created a trust for a 55-year-old person. So you can create a trust for the adult, and all the adult is entitled to is the proceeds. Well, it depends on what you have put there, but typically it will be the proceeds or whatever. Maybe they're entitled to care up until 30. That's why you see, in what some people will do, even though their children are fully functional, they will still create. They will say, "This is my child. I'm not sure if I give him all this money, he will be frequenting nightclubs. He'll be doing this. He'll be doing that." No, 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 no. Wait till you're 35. So they will create that trust, keep the money or the assets in a trust, and then now say, just be, give him an allowance every quarter or something like that up until he gets to 35. Now, when he's 30, he cannot get up and say, "It's my money, give me my money." He can't do that because, like she rightfully said, it's not his money technically. You have put the legal title of that money or that asset in the trust until the guy or the woman becomes 35 or whatever else age you choose.
So I
Okay.
think
Well, thank you. But again, maybe I'm not very clear. So let me. Sorry, madam. What was your name again? I usually like just your name. Ijama. Thank you. So may I call you Ijama? Thank you. As Ijama said, and this is my concern, forget the trust scenario. Let's leave that aside. A child turns 18. That child, like it or not, is an adult. Assume without conceding that the child does not require special needs, but the child is an adult. Any child. Technically, you as a parent or a guardian or anyone else no longer has a right over any asset that belongs to that child. Forget the trust scenario. The simplest example is a bank account, like she said. I think most of us have done this. From our salaries, we say, okay, fine, X amount of money goes to this child every month. Access Bank does it. I know GT Bank does it. And then when that child turns 18, irrespective of whether the child has special needs or not, you, the person who could withdraw money from that account prior to that child turning 18, can no longer do so. The child is incapable of doing so. So I ask the question, in Nigerian law, and if this is a gap, is this something that we need to address quickly? Also, technically, that child, if you wish to travel abroad with that adult, let's stop calling him a child, that adult, there's a requirement. Maybe the passport expires. There's a requirement to renew that passport. I understand that we can go to the Nigerian Immigration Service and say, "Oh, this is my child," or "This is happening." And somebody say, hey, yeah, I understand. Let's sort it out. However, is that right? Is that proper? If another child, if your friend or somebody else wishes to take that child abroad when you cannot, what is the basis of that? Okay, I appointed the person a trustee, maybe for that child, when the person was a child. But it's not a financial trust now. What gives that person the right to go and apply for a passport for that child? Let's assume the child is a dual citizen. What gives that person the right to go to the US Embassy, the Nigerian, whatever it is, and say, I want to apply for this? That is my concern. So if such a thing does exist, please tell us. If it does not, please tell us and let us, and maybe will give us a pathway towards, so that part of the thing that comes out of this conference is we approach National Assembly, we approach State House of Assembly to close this lacuna, because it is a big lacuna. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This will
So
be
you
our
get
final and last question.
Okay. She mentioned something. That she does, and you can't do it. You get a medical certificate first of all, indicating this is a child's condition. This is the issue, and we don't believe that this child has, again, I'm using the words loosely, the mental capacity. This child is like an adult, a diagnosis, whatever, a medical certificate. And then you go to the court and get the court to declare you a guardian of that adult, in quote. With that court order, you can apply for a passport, or, you are basically given custody. You're basically placed as the guardian of that adult, even though that person is no longer a child. So you can do that. You can use that to travel. You can use that to go anywhere you need to go. You can use that to go to the bank and withdraw, because you are a guardian ad idem. You are a guardian of over that adult now. I hope that clarifies. But we don't. So the way just to be clear, and sorry about this, there are a lot of holes in our laws, and there's a lot that we can do to plug those holes in our laws. Our laws do not adequately see, in fact, our laws do not see children or adults with disabilities. We mainly rely on how the courts in certain instances have interpreted, or what they have done in certain cases, what we call case law. Okay, this is how the judge ruled on this, or this is how the judge ruled on that. Our laws are not adequate, and there needs to be there's a lot that needs to be done. And hopefully, very soon, with the special needs community getting stronger and stronger and gaining traction, hopefully, very soon, we will lead, people to the assembly to pass with the laws that we need, that we think would help to protect our children or our adults living with disabilities. But no, our laws are not sufficient.
So I think I know what you were looking for something like how they do in the UK, whereby when the child becomes 18, the child becomes the state's child, right? That's what you were looking for, child of us. So you have a government, I know that in England, you have a document that once the child becomes 18, the government becomes the owner of the child. Here the child has a special need. It's something, that's what they usually have in the UK. Unfortunately, like she said, in Nigeria, we don't have. But are there ways that we can get around it? Yes. Which is what I said earlier, she had explained again, is that you go to get a medical report and get it certified in court. And once you have that certification in court, naming you the guardian of that child, based on the child's mental capability, I'm not sure who would stop you from taking decisions on that child. And when I said a trust, that's just an add-on on that basis. It's not the full whole story. There's a whole lot of stories regarding how to manage adults, children living with autism, and it's such, unfortunately for us, it's not something that we have built on yet, and that's because the children that were older than this set of children in the last 20 years, their parents used to hide them or take them abroad, and so we don't have anything. So it's us, to be honest, that we're going to start this revolution to say we have to take care of these people, and this is how we're going to manage it. So I do like the idea of going to National State of Assembly. I'm here for that. But unfortunately, what do we have now? It's just to work with the basic things that we have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please let's put our hands together for our amazing panelists.